God.
So look, a little bit of a change in agenda tonight. Just decided that with the time that we have, that we really want to tap into Keely's resource and her experience. So we're just going to give her the floor. She's going to go through her presentation, questions as we go, and then certainly a bit of a Q&A at the end. And that Q&A can be anything off topic, anything related to umpire coaching, on and off field, and if anything sort of Kiwi or New Zealand hockey related, happy to answer those questions as well. All right, so it is my great pleasure to introduce to you, not that she needs an introduction, she's just getting her technology sorted, but introduce to you Keely Dunn, a retired Level 1 FIH accredited international umpire, a international umpire manager of her own right, and as we all know, the FH Umpires online development umpiring resource community.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Keely, on behalf of all of us here, you know, I got pretty excited when Shane McNee actually reached out to me and said that you were pretty keen to come along. And so, as you know, that started an event of a couple of emails back and forth, and then we finally had 2 or 3 online meetings and just talked about quite a lot of wide-ranging things. But I knew then that we were going to get on pretty well when you got here, and I wouldn't say peas in a pod, but similar whānau, I think. But yeah, so we're just very lucky to have you here and very keen to hear from you tonight. So I'll hand over to you now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Keely.
Thanks, everybody. It's so nice to see so many of you here, and I really am so honored to be not only here, but to have been welcomed into your community the way that I have. I went to the Porphyry to open the tournament, and it was truly a special and beautiful experience. And all of these little things that are adding up to teaching me about what New Zealand hockey is, what New Zealand umpiring family is really making this just a complete no-brainer of an amazing decision to come down. So thank you very much, because you've made this completely worth my while. So yeah, I don't need to tell you any more about me. There's like websites and stuff. You can find all that out, what we're going to do. But what I wanted to do, I was passed along a couple of topics that we thought we might be most interested in. And so I decided to hone in on a couple of them. Let's see if I can get this going. Whatever, just go to about. Oh yeah, you all know that human being. She's pretty fantastic. So we're going to go through aerials, specifically mishandles and interceptions, because if you know anything about the way that I like to teach, I like to go by example. I like to show, and then we talk about principles, and then we talk about the rules, and then we talk about examples, and then we build a process by which we can make good, consistent, and game-serving decisions. So we're going to do that part, and then we're going to talk about free hits, and specifically rolling ball management. And I know it's like, wow, that's really specific, Keely, but trust, this is hot of the hottest topics. All of the big video referrals at the FH level are either about aerials or they're about free hits. And that means that if you're not having these dilemmas now, you're going to have them very soon. Because all of your players are all watching the streams now and going, well, that's what I saw at Pro League. That's what I saw in Paris. That's what I saw here there. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. I don't think you're going to be able to hear much, but luckily I don't think that's going to turn anything in this.
And that's what I was talking about, the confusion in the circles.
So as this plays through it a little bit, there's like no point in watching Vanry talking to my friend Ahmed there, but this was a Pro League play, and it's a nice illustration and a nice challenge that we can talk about the initial receiver. Sorry, if I ever stand in your way, just say, get Oh, trust me, I've converted more than my fair share of, parents into umpiring. So there you go.
She's not made a clean interception.
So one of the dilemmas that we have about the initial receiver is we think that
Played it onto Jones. So
players stand in 5-meter discs on the field, right? That they're this, and there's a circle around them, 5 meters, and never shall anybody come into it. But aerials actually are a lot more complicated than that and a lot more nuanced, because the trajectory of the ball has everything to do whether something is safe, whether something is interceptable, and whether a player has the ability to fully control and to be considered that initial receiver. And what should be happening after that happens. So in this case, we're looking at the white team throwing the aerial, and there is, you can argue, an initial receiver on the opposing team, on the red team, right? Everybody's chill with that? Does everybody agree that red is the initial receiver? Everybody's good? Okay. But as you look at it from various angles, it took him a second, but he makes the decision for the penalty corner because the ball is mishandled dangerously towards the other attacker that's standing behind her within 5 meters. Right? I mean, it's pretty clear. She's within 5 meters. So you might say, oh, well, the initial receiver didn't have 5 meters of space because you paint a disc on the ground. But look at the trajectory of the aerial as it's coming down. And that player has all the ability, all the space, and all the time they need to control that with their level of skill. That's the big caveat, right? It's not just about absolutes. We're taking into account what players at particular levels can achieve. Now, if you're doing junior, under 16, or I don't know how young your folks can bomb aerials, but usually it's around sort of 14 that they start bombing a little bit. Yeah. So they can chuck aerials, but they can't really receive them very well. So what control means and what an initial receiver means shifts. But here, I think it's pretty clear that you have a good initial receiver who mishandles it and does so in a dangerous way at the player behind her. Any questions or comments about that? Frenchie walked off with a mic, so go ahead. He's gonna. There you go.
So if the red player had not attempted to play the ball, then I'd be comfortable that it's a free hit defence. Because she's attempted to play the ball and made a mess of it, that then changes things. Is that what you're saying?
So you're considering that an initial receiver has to actually try to play the ball?
Well, on the basis that there's too many people there,
okay,
then she has no obligation to do anything other than go, it's been thrown at me, and I'm not moving and creating a problem for the attackers, so
right.
It's now the attacker's problem.
So again, I want to shift that. I want to shift that thinking away from there's too many people in the area to where are those people? Don't take away the context of where the ball has come from and what angle it's traveling towards the players from. She doesn't need 5 meters around her. Too many people? Nobody cares. That's not a thing.
So all I was saying is if the red player didn't play at the ball,
yeah,
she's created the problem by playing it. If she didn't do anything,
right,
then...
I mean, maybe. Also, if aliens landed, like anything could have happened. I guess what we have is a situation where there could be pressure from behind, from that defender, and any player with a brain is going to try to pull that down. They're not going to go, oh, I'm going to just leave that for the attacker standing behind me. Because she knows she's there. Like, this isn't a mystery. She's not like, oh, surprise, Sarah Jones! What happened? You know? She knows she's there. And she's playing it because that's the best, smart hockey thing to do. Yeah. Just leaving it is not a thing. So maybe I'm just not understanding where the...
If as an umpire I blew it early on the basis that there are 2 players there and it's not clear...
But you shouldn't do that in this situation.
That's kind of where I'm heading to. I would blow it early and just avoid the
Why?
problem.
Why? There is no problem. There's an initial receiver.
But the initial receiver is the defender.
Yeah, so? So you play it. There's nothing illegal about aerialing a ball to an initial receiver. Doesn't matter where it happens on the field, right?
And that's what I was talking about, the confusion in the
You can't blow fouls that haven't happened yet.
No, I suspect that many of us, and this is where I'm going to ask the double question on behalf of everybody else and make myself look dumb,
Sure.
that many of us consider the initial receiver identification to be about a team member of the player who's raised the ball.
No.
And if that's not clearly one of their teammates,
Yeah.
then we don't need to consider the other person who's in the direct line of fire as being the initial receiver.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought of it that way, and I'm not aware of any ways that you interpret it that way. A receiver is a receiver, and it doesn't have to be a teammate of the receiver, of the passer. It's just, I mean, there are so many times where a ball is aerialed at an opposition player just because of failure to do the right hockey thing, failure to skill, and that player then is granted the ability, the 5 meters, to control the ball. But she's in space at this level that allows her to do the cool thing with aerials, which is receive and stay the fuck out of the way of the players. Right? Sorry. Is it okay if I swear? Okay. It's New Zealand, and I thought everybody was chill, but okay. Just if I go over quota, tell me, okay? Because I'm naturally going to accidentally, on purpose, swear a lot. Okay?
He's in good form at the moment, yes, but Brinkman, look at that for
So other examples of mishandling the ball as initial receiver can come about when players are actively receiving on the move. And I mean, I've been watching all of the age groups here, and there are a lot of players who are attempting to receive the ball on the move. And if you're old like me, you remember back in the day that the ball used to be lofted and it would be lofted from a stationary position, and then the receiver would stand under it and they would receive it like this, and everything was very static. Well, guess what, friends? Everything's changed. Everything is on the move. And it becomes a very difficult, complicated situation to figure out. Has the initial receiver, who in this case was a teammate of the attacker, lucky, but in orange, actively and with control at this level, plays the ball away from the place in which he's received it, right? Plays it forward 5 meters, more than 5 meters, into the space of a player who's given him the time to do what he needs to do. Given him the room. Initial receiver, good. He tries an interception. Okay, whatever. You know, we're not going to fuss about that right now. So he fails the interception, but the aerial is misplayed through towards a next player who's more than 5 meters away. But when it happens quickly, it's really difficult for us to see that, because we're trying to think in lines. We're like drawing discs on the pitch and lines on the pitch, and we have to get away from that. And we have to be better at capturing all of these moving situations all at once. We're superstars. We can do this. I believe in us. But it takes the practice of seeing it on the pitch and getting it wrong and getting it right and looking at a lot of video like this. Are there any questions about this one? No? We're chill? Okay. Why am I walking over there every time?
Back to Doran. Little flick up, picked up.
French, you'll remember this one.
It was a dangerous one from the Slovak. It was
There's a few.
Have a look here. Doran throws this aerial.
So we have a relatively short aerial. The initial receiver is there, and space at the moment of contact is given. But the reception takes the ball into the circle again. What do you all think? Because this went to referral. Because the attacking team believed that there had been an intentional infringement on this play, and they thought we're entitled to a penalty corner. Or perhaps a penalty stroke, depending on where you argue the reception really came from. What do you all think about this?
Back to
And,
Van Doren. Little flick up.
and if anybody wants to like say a couple sentences, we'll just get the mic sort of passed around just for the sake of the live stream. Ah, Viv, don't you be shaking your head like that. Look, this is a safe space. This is a place where we would get to say, I don't know, it looks to me like this thing, and you'd be shocked at how many times your random guesses are right. Give Derberg the mic. Derberg, sorry.
I don't think that's a foul. I think it's over 5 meters.
Steven, give Steven the mic.
Okay. What I'm seeing is he's controlled it once again. He's controlled it down in front of him. The black player had initially been outside the fight and actually backed off. The black player was not looking to influence play. In fact, he's looking at what the next move is for him after the ball is then played on. For me, that's a play on. And from the moment it hits the ground and is in front of him, that's it. The aerial's over. All considerations are off.
Right. So if you didn't catch all that, Stephen was talking about how he thinks at this level particularly that when the contact is made that there's enough control, because we do know that the aerial rule in the rule book requires that the ball be controlled and on the ground.
I don't think that.
Respectfully, I say fuck that shit. No, I mean honestly, Frenchie's like, oh my god. But at this level, control isn't on the ground. Control is in the air. Control is they can receive a ball, they can cradle it. I saw this in German Bundesliga. A kid, like a 21-year-old, was like, grabs an arrow like this, and then he just starts running like this. Hi, how you doing? You know, I was boggled, like, how does that happen? How does that hockey? But it did. And that's the next steps, the evolution of where things are going. Now, I'm not saying we don't apply the rules, but what we do is we understand what the intention of the rules is, which is to make sure that the players are safe and they can exercise their skill to their most excellent level, whatever that is. And for me,
over 5 meters.
I agree with Stephen's assessment that there is 5 meters initially given, but the player is trying to take it with control into the circle because he wants to get a shot off. And he does, but the defender closes and the ball ricochets out of play. So I liked the umpire's decision in that moment, and we're not going to talk about what the actual referral was. Okay?
I wasn't in that part.
This one is obviously very similar to the last one. Same angles, same sort of receiver. And the defender in this case, it's difficult to see, but I want you to come with me on this. Assume in this moment that that is a decently clean contact on the ball. Because it was pretty damn close to being, holy crap, that defender actually picked that out of the air as the guy was trying to one-time the ball. Pretty incredible stuff, right? So again, this isn't meant to say this is the definitive answer for every situation that looks like this. This is for us to think about what are we trying to achieve for the players? What are we trying to invite them to be able to do? What are we trying to protect them from? We're trying to protect them from danger. We're trying to invite them to express their skill to the best of their ability. And the way that, you know, since I'm umpiring at this level every day, the way that I would have looked at this is I would hope that I would have said, that is control. That attacker has the control because he is fully going into a shot. Otherwise, if the defender can't close on this, it's like, what are they going to do? Please shoot at my goalkeeper. He may be awesome, but that's a pretty tough shot anyway. Okay. I would play on there, yep. I would. Sorry, what was that? I have no idea. I don't have a foggiest. But that's the cool thing, right? We're out there in the middle of watching some pretty incredible players at all ages, especially at this tournament, doing things that we are like, wow, look at the shit you can do. This is so much fun that I get this front row seat to this stuff. And that's why as umpires, we really want to develop that. We want to express that while still making sure everybody gets to go to work tomorrow or school or retirement holiday or whatever old people do. I don't know. Okay? So we're going to look to the flip side of this because this is one of the newer additions to the rule book that really was something that was already in place, but it kind of got codified after my good friend Dan Barstow made an amazing decision at a semifinal of a World Cup in 2018, and Eddie Ockenden picked off a pass that was going to Sevi Vanass and picked it off in midair, and Australia went down and tied the game with seconds left. And Dan made the right call to play on. And everybody was mad. Everybody was super mad. I'm like, oh no, that's dope. Because the hockey, the way that Ockenden came across, he cut the angle of the ball and he just sliced across it and grabbed it. Like, incredible skill. It was so exciting. And then Australia goes down, and you don't have to like Australia for that. I know you guys know. I know. I get it. Just imagine it wasn't Australia, but another team wearing yellow and gold. Okay?
Glorious evening.
So if you can see this might be a little small for this facility. Hopefully you can. But I wanted to add in what I think is a pretty easy one to start. Like, let's ease our way into this whole interception stuff. Okay? What you have is an opposing player coming across the line of the ball and intercepting that ball within the 5 meters,
in Amsterdam,
but safely and outside of playing distance. Playing distance is crazy time, right? Like, we don't really know what it is. Has anybody ever told you, they're like, oh, playing distance is 2 meters. Playing distance is 3. Playing distance is 1.5 meters. And I'm like, you know what? If that was the case, then the rule book would have said that you can intercept as long as it's safe and it's outside of 2 meters of the player. Like, why would they do something stupid like playing distance? Because playing distance changes according to where the ball is. Is it over here? Is it up here? Is it close to the body? Is it past them this way? Where is that interception trying to happen? Right? So it's more complicated than that. But the key is, this is the hot tip. If you're like glossing over anything that I've said, which is fine. I mean, I'm a little all over the place and distracting at times. But if there's one thing you take away and you're wondering, how do I call interceptions right? When am I going to know that it's going to be a good interception before it's even happened? You want to see the bisection of the angle of the aerial, right? Because if I'm going to intercept my friend here, okay, actually I'm going to pick Shane just because we're closer friends and I don't want to freak you out. But so if Shane's the initial receiver, and I'm going to do this, and if I back through the line of the ball, very unlikely that's going to succeed. The ball's coming to Shane, and I come running from here, and I try to intercept like that, very unlikely to succeed. But if I run across his line,
glorious evening,
and I reach over,
Amsterdam,
just right here, playing distance, safe, fine, that is where you have success. And that's the pattern you will see if you're watching the top matches. Every time it's that bisection. But when they're on the same path as the ball, never works. Because the two players are the same pace, right? Like, they're not going to outpace each other.
The pleasure of being pitch side for both.
This one happened at the qualifier in Valencia.
Oh, that's a lovely takedown, Nellen, and it's in.
And just an incredible goal. I love your face. That is dope. I know. That's what everybody thought when it happened. Like, oh my God.
The high ball into the circle, and then super well played of Nellen with her backhand.
So who do you think the initial receiver is in this case?
Web again clearing.
So important.
That was where it was so difficult. No man's land essentially, and Nellen came in.
So I've heard a lot of goalkeeper.
So awkward.
Anybody going with anybody else?
Side for both. This came in London. To the corner. Oh, that's a lovely takedown. Nellen.
Yeah, 21 who's jumping up. Maybe the initial receiver. Maybe there isn't an initial receiver. I wasn't trying to psych you out and trick you. I don't really know. I don't really know who an initial receiver is in this case. But what we do have, when you look at it from this angle, you're like, how is there space in there for this event to occur? This boggles. But when you see it from differing angles, you start to see that the attacker has cut in between. And for whatever reason, the goalkeeper, it's a short aerial, and short aerials can sometimes be really, really dangerous for the initial receiver because very quickly things change. But that attacker has sliced through in between. Thank you very much. Popped it up. Boom. For a goal. There was no video referral here requested. There were no complaints from a very complainy team in a very big game. Everybody was super happy, except maybe all the GB fans on social media who didn't understand what was going on. Okay.
That have occurred as a result of that. India really threatening there in the D with that one. Another aerial ball there into the corner.
So this is the aerial you're going to watch for here. Who's the initial receiver? Blue, Indian player, yep. Okay. That's my friend Raghu. Looking very handsome. So this does go to video referral. Now he's awarded a free hit for the defense. He's awarded a free hit for India, but India's like, oh no, wait. No, India's on attack, sorry. So he's awarded a free hit for the attack for India, but India's like, no, 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 no. We want more than that. We want a penalty corner for the intentional breakdown of play because they believe that the red defender who comes running across, and yes, he's bisected the line, but okay. We don't need to see that part really slowly.
You just see here.
Setting the space, eyes on the ball.
And here he comes into the picture there.
Comes across him. I would say Rajkumar Pal is the initial receiver there.
Clearly he's close, okay? So we all agree he's within playing distance. And it's actually probably dangerous. If that Indian wanted to make it dangerous, he could have made it dangerous. We're really lucky he did not. Okay? So we can all agree that the rule is breached here. Now what could make this an intentional breakdown of play?
That have occurred as a result of that. India really
and we can pass around the microphone to somebody who wants to take this on. Yeah, go ahead.
There into the corner.
Anybody. Just throw it out there. What makes us feel possibly, you don't have to commit to the position, but what would make you think that this is an intentional breakdown of play?
If the defender had identified the risk to his defence because the attacker was in clear space,
right,
and he's gone in there just to make sure.
Okay, so he's identified the risk.
Scoreline. The scoreline of the game.
The scoreline of the game can help, absolutely. I mean, that goes to the impact of the breakdown. Could we look at what vision that defender would have in this moment? Is there any confusion, do you think, to that defender as to whether that attacker is there and ready to receive that ball? So he's got clear view of this guy, and he's like, all right, I'm going to go try an interception. Hi, friend. He can see him. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows how close he is in that moment that he is, in my view, recklessly breaking down play. Right, and the amount of time that you had, it wasn't like an accidental, but that would go to whether there's a 5 meter, an initial receiver and all that kind of stuff. So yes. So for me, this is a good example. So when the player who is trying the interception, but is like, I'm going to try this interception, and comes like right into the player's face, that's when you're like, friend, we're not happy about this. that interrupts the play. It's poor hockey, it's potentially dangerous, and we may be looking at the next step. If this happens in the middle of the field, could be a card. Happens outside here, penalty corner. Happens inside the circle, penalty stroke. Unless you're in the Netherlands, and then you're not allowed to call penalty strokes on these. Don't ask me, man, it pisses me off.
Flattish, looking for Hardick, top of the circle.
Last little example here. Hey, we know that guy. Hey!
We've seen the Armand already receiving 2 of those kind of balls in the area.
Who's the initial receiver?
5 yards.
Blue. Correct.
Australia.
Red, orange, whatever you want to call him. Red tries to intercept. At the time that he's trying the interception, is he doing so in a safe manner, and is he outside of playing distance? Yeah, everybody is absolutely in agreement of that. Awesome. Okay, what happens next?
In the area, not 5 yards.
Yeah, even Frenchie's getting involved. He's like, I gotta get something in here.
Engaged him.
Yes. So he's missing the interception. He's like, fuck. And he turns around in a second. And he turns around and he then infringes on the 5 meters before the player has, even at the skill level, the time to control the ball and do what he needs to do. It's just outside the circle, and Tomo, because he's awesome, just pings it up as a penalty corner. Frenchie, what do you have?
So what should have that defending player done once he's missed the intercept?
Great question. What do you think?
What do you think he should have done? Sorry?
Should have stepped away.
Stepped away.
Absolutely.
To enable that player to enter the circle. He's chosen not to step away. He's chosen to engage that player to stop him entering the circle. It's forward to penalty corner.
Looking for Hardick, top of the circle. No one gave him 5. Now the penalty corner. Coming India's way because Belts the goal scorer.
It's almost like, oh no, I can see why. These are Belts.
They're well coached in New Zealand, Keely.
I can tell.
Yeah,
I can
very well
tell.
coached
You've
in New
learned a
Zealand.
lot. You've learned a lot, Frenchie.
Not 5 yards. Unfortunate for Australia.
Flattish, looking for.
Yeah, there's some serious trust issues around this game, and a lot of fouls happen because of lack of trust. So I think they should all go in bonding experiences and fix that. But anyway, any questions about aerials before we move on to the next segment? I'm trying to be mindful of time, and I literally have never done a talk like this within any reasonable period of time, but like, oh my god, I'm in New Zealand, let's try something crazy for the first time, okay? Yeah.
Already receiving 2 of those kind of balls.
We don't want to waste this.
So, positioning for umpires to make the call, getting the call right. Can you talk us through a little bit about, some really good habits, some really good tips on how umpires, when the aerial's going up, what they should be looking at, how they can be in the right place to judge it, transference of responsibility between umpires, right?
I don't
know if you have an opinion on this. I don't know if you have an opinion on this.
I mean, you lot are laughing, but you're not in the community where you hear me banging on about this little thing I call the mission critical positioning. Yeah, control. Yeah, okay. So you've been on a lot of my live streams. I can't help it. It's a tick. So what I call mission critical positioning is just a cute term that applies to a more interior and deeper style of positioning that accounts for the fact that hockey has changed in the last couple of decades. We don't have offside since 1996. We have a self-pass. We're playing on artificial turf, and we have these amazing aerial balls, and yet somehow we haven't changed positioning for like 50 fucking years. We might want to update our practices. And one of the ways in which we can do that, and you can see that one of the reasons that Tomo was able to make this amazingly accurate decision is that he is closer to being in the line of the aerial coming towards him. Which means that if he was, I mean, nobody's going to do this inside the circle, but what if he was out on the sideline and the ball is moving across him? What are the chances that he's going to be able to see all this information, process it correctly, and come to a nice, timely decision that is very credible and keeps everybody safe? Zero. And when I see umpires at every level of play struggling with decisions like this, it's because they're side on to things. And they're watching it, sorry, face this way. So the ball's come from here, and they're like, oh, look at that ball, it's in the air, and it's, oh shit. And you don't know who the initial receiver was. You don't know what you're gonna do with this moment, and in the time that it takes for you to go, oh shit, bedlam is broken out, dogs and cats are living together, you don't want that situation, okay? So you need to have all of this coming towards you, all in your peripheral vision. If you're umpiring at levels that don't have aerials, well, guess what? You will very soon, and plus, it's really good for looking at other decisions too. So anyway, if you want to talk more about that with me, or you want to talk to Steven, who's an excellent salesperson, go ahead and ask him. Ask Shane. There are umpires who are umpiring here this week who are doing this. I'm slowly winning over people like Frenchie a little bit.
It's not a new positioning.
It's not a new positioning. But the fact that people aren't doing it, especially at the top levels consistently, is a point of major concern for people like the umpire managers going to Paris. And they're like, we need better accuracy than this, so we are going to change the positioning. And we're going to drag them into this, whether they like it or not. Oh, more Tomo. I can't help it. I love that guy. Okay. So we're going to move on to free hits and managing the rolling ball. I mean, I don't know if any of you saw this, but this clip is a big hit in England whenever I show it. This is quarterfinal or semifinal? You were here.
Sorry?
You were here.
I was, yes.
This is Commonwealth Games. This is England and Australia, and this was the big call. The big rolling ball, and Tyler Clank came back with a particular decision. I'm giving you the personnel, and Sean Rappaport is on the field. I would love to hear what you briefed them after this.
So I'm very pleased to say I was looking after the female panel at Commonwealth Games.
You fuck!
Sorry to say that, but of course I did have a view on it, but I'm quite keen for you to just progress it with the group here first.
Sure. So that's the way I want to do it. So keep watching as this is happening, and if you have any feelings that you'd like to share, it's a very feeling-oriented place, just go ahead and spit them out. Because this was a big decision, big result, big game, big pressure. Okay? Hi, Sean. Okay? Don't let what necessarily happened on the field influence what you want to talk about. So what we have here is the ball coming out to the side of the circle. And it strikes the defender's foot. Pretty clear. No problem. And from the angle that the camera is watching this play from, there appears to be some travel on that ball. Do we consider this a rolling ball and therefore an improperly played free hit such that in the moment it was played on for the goal, but should that have come back to be a free hit out, free hit for the defense? No, and why? Because you've already seen my live stream. Just kidding.
Could I ask a question?
You may ask a question.
How do we know when that free hit's taken?
Oh my God. You're skipping through my notes. But that's good. Absolutely.
I won't ask any more questions.
No, your questions are gorgeous. Keep them coming.
The hard thing for here is you can't hear when the whistle's blown for the free hit.
Okay.
So I guess, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that could be a point, but in this case, the free hit is given when you would expect it to be. It's quick, it's sharp. Okay, what do you have, Stephen?
I guess what I'm looking for is there any clear indication that the free hit has actually been taken, regardless? Now, what I see is the Australian player, there's a quick whistle, and then immediately there's a stutter from the Australian, rolls the stick over the top, and then goes again. the ball's continued with its slow momentum, but the player has done something to indicate that this is where I have taken the free hit, and I was fine with that. I mean, the momentum, it wasn't as though the ball was shooting across its speed. It wasn't as though the speed of the trajectory of the ball unfairly took a defender out. For me, it was a good play on because there was a clear indication of where that was taken. Yeah, he did. That's what I'm saying.
He turns his stick over visually. Does he stop the ball with his stick? No, he does not. That's well spotted. So do you have the counter argument to this?
I would also say that there's enough of a hesitation from the Australian player that indicates a break of play. So there's enough of he's not actually gaining an advantage from not stopping the ball because he has had to register a free hit and be like, oh, I've actually got the ball, regardless of him physically stopping the play or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So Lexi, what is the rule about free hits?
It's right here. It's 13.2. and specifically 13.2a. I've done this a couple times.
That's one where she does want to refer to the rule.
So, it says the ball must be stationary. Why is this rule actually in place? What are we trying to achieve with this? What is the rule book? Where is my drink, Paul? What is the rule trying to achieve here? Not you. Do I want a cider? Yes, I want a cider, please. Thank you.
That's what I was asking.
If you don't know where the free hit is taken from, you can't manage the 5 metre distance that the defender sets to.
Precisely. Why are you guys so smart?
Because I watch your live stream.
Oh, no, you're supposed to say it's because you've learned it in your own family. Yes. It's so that everybody knows where the 5 meters needs to be for the defenders. Or also for attackers when we're in this location. And we know exactly, the defenders know, the attackers know, the umpires know, the fans know. And so, I don't think there's any argument. Can I go back? I don't think there's any argument. Oh, you, so nice. Thank you. That this is not a stationary ball. And every England fan definitely hung their hat on that definition. Do we feel confident that we know where the free hit was taken from? Everybody's nodding their heads?
We'll have a look at the free hit and whether it's
Absolutely. Okay. I happen to agree, and it's not just because a Canadian in the video booth upheld the decision. But I do have Tyler's back. Okay? But it's a very difficult decision. It's very close. There's a lot of nuance, but there's just enough of a difference in the change of direction for me to know exactly what's happening.
How often we see them go for the straight drag off the top, and why wouldn't you when you've got a player like Janssen with such a success rate?
That's a great take.
Okay, this is from Euros, I think. The blur that is Hannah Martin there in white wins a free hit that... Okay, we'll come back to that part. I'll stop on that part. And then off she goes on a run. How do you feel about looking at this one? Are you confident that you know from where the free hit was taken? From Quint.
That's a great take.
Yes, but it's nowhere near the mark.
Yes, okay. It's not really in a playing distance of where the infringement happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do we want the ball to be where the infringement happened?
So there's not an unfair advantage
create a game plan based on statistics.
Okay. But I guess you could pull it back to the fact that it's nil-all. It's in the middle of the field. Nobody's really getting an attacking advantage or feeling disadvantaged as a defender. But it just seems odd that it's probably travelled a reasonable distance from where the actual infringement has happened.
Right. So we talk about with free hits and an unfair advantage with a ball placement is that you're the person who committed the foul, and you're trapped within the 5 meters, unless it's quite far, it doesn't really matter. You're kind of effed anyway because you're within the 5 meters. So you're not a person who can be disadvantaged because you can't play that anyway. We're looking at the other defenders that are around, and we're thinking, oh yeah, those people should not be disadvantaged by the ball placement. Who commits the foul here?
The headband.
Both of them. Yeah, it's both of them. It's pretty crazy.
You can almost create a game plan based on statistics, and you've got to do what the numbers are telling you. So often, how
so you can argue in this case
the straight drag off the top, and why
that
when
the defenders who have committed the foul, if they can't be disadvantaged by the ball placement, they are the two that are there, and nobody else is disadvantaged, so that's okay. Potentially. Okay? This is one of those really, really gray areas. The other thing that you might pick up on this is, why is there not a card given for the breakdown of play? Because those two Dutch players really wanted to make sure that one of the best players on their opposition was not going to be able to run through the middle of their field where there was a shit ton of space in front of her. So that's something to think about too, is that was a breakdown of play. And to bring that player back and move her maybe 4 meters, it's probably about 4 meters in between. Does that exacerbate that disadvantage with no actual unfairness going on to the defending team?
A game plan based on statistics.
Potentially.
You've got to do what the numbers are telling you.
I've literally changed my mind on this clip about 14 times. I'll just be honest with you, because it is a really difficult one. But I put this one in because I want us to have the conversation about why and how and who is disadvantaged. And these clips actually have a story to tell, because this is later in the same game.
It and feeds it in. The commitment to run 70 meters.
We're now in Q4. The Dutch are beating up on Great Britain, as always. So the foul happens just outside the 23, and the ball ends up rolling in. A teammate rolls the ball back to her center mid there, who then takes off with the south pass. How do you feel about this one? Thoughts and sorrows? You feel good about it, Paul? Was that you chirping up from the back? No, somebody said good. Who said good? You said good. Thank you, Stephen.
Right side forward,
is there anybody who's concerned about this? The way the umpire was. Because the umpire reverses the free hit.
Absolutely fine, because taking it back, it's clear where she's taking it from.
It's clear where she's taking it from. Yes. So the
right wing for anybody asking.
It's at the location of the infringement. Right.
Matter, takes it and
so she hasn't put her stick over the ball or anything like that, but the ball just naturally, because it's rolling towards her, and the direction she wants to take off in is exactly the opposite direction to which the ball was coming to her. It's really clear where it was taken from. This is the same game.
Old school, right?
Okay? And I'm not pointing this out for any shade at all, my friend Yaku. No, sir. What I'm trying to point out is that sometimes when we have difficult decisions early in the match, on a nuanced, complicated play like this, it gets in our head, and we're thinking, you know what? I don't think I should have let that ball roll. The next time I see something close, I'm going to make sure I do the right thing. And then sometimes that makes us do the wrong thing.
Doesn't matter.
Because we're overemphasizing. We're searching for it. We're hunting for it. Okay? So that's just a general thing that trips up all of us, except Frenchie. We're now moving on to a little bit of a different aspect of rolling balls. Okay, sideline ball. Thoughts? Sorrows? Anything?
Yeah.
No disadvantage, just play on. There's nobody around, everything's fine, right? There's literally no stoppage of the ball whatsoever. But the ball hasn't changed direction anyway, so how do we know where it's taken from? She asks with her.
Across the line.
Oh my God, it's where across the line. Because there's an actual line there that says this is where the ball's taken from, and you can actually measure 5 meters from it. Wow. It's a real asset. Like, it's super cool. Like, yay, we know exactly where that is.
Doesn't touch it onto the foot that she's looking for, and Spain finally gets stick on ball and try to run it away. Segu, no clear touch.
Would that change our decision?
If she had taken it before the field of play, well, she did. She did. She kind of self-passed.
She's looking for, and Spain finally gets stick on ball.
It's a good save. It is a good save. It's a confident save by
Yeah,
our
the
people.
first time she touched it inside the field, the player was about foot inside. So you got, you know, she plays it, foot outside, crosses the line, yeah, so. Yeah. Are you saying that she actually started it before played?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, technically speaking, are we bothered? Are we bothered? Great. No, awesome. And I mean, that is a really important point to discuss. So I'm not like, this is not shade. I'm pleased you pointed that out. Because there are some people who say that the ball was played outside the field of play, and therefore, like, I don't know what the justification is, because it doesn't sound like hockey to me, but some umpires can get very technical about this. But that's too easy, so let's make it harder.
That she's looking for, and Spain finally gets stick on ball and try to run it away. Segu, no clear touch.
Very similar. The ball was not contacted on the line. The ball is dribbled towards the line. There is disengagement between the stick and ball. Stick comes off the ball, comes back to the ball after the ball has entered the field. The self-pass continues. Are we bothered? Shane's not bothered. Andrew's not bothered.
Get stick on ball and
anybody else not bothered?
Run it away. Segu.
Okay.
No clear touch.
It's a good save. It is a good save. It's a confident save by Hafizuddin Othman. He's put out his right leg, batted that away. Neelkanta Sharma is wasting no time, but he has to have for at least
Raps is bothered. Are we bothered?
25, matter?
23, yep. But the last one was right close to the 23 as well. Oh my God, do you think I'm leading you through that for a reason? What? One of the things that's different is that there is a player, the player who knocks the ball off, the Indian player there knocks the ball off. They're the last player, the Malaysian. Bleh. Knocks it off, and so there's a Malaysian now who is close. They're within 5 meters of where that self-pass is taken. Is that Malaysian defender disadvantaged? He's not looking at it. Yeah, he's running away to make sure he's not going to get pinged for a 5-meter infringement. So the complication, the thing that puts this to the next level, is that there is a defender there that some umpires, in particular Raps in this situation, thought this is disadvantageous because the Indian player hasn't stopped their momentum at all. They've just been able to take it at a full run, which puts more pressure on that Malaysian defender. Frankly, I don't give a damn. I don't think that's something that we're worried about because we're not enforcing stationary balls on free hits in order to slow play. We're just trying to make sure we know where the 5 meters is. And that's something that a lot of us have to get out of our heads. Is that punishment on that?
What conversation would we be having then if the player was like not turning away and running away but was wanting to engage? Would you then call it back and tell the Indian player to, like, you need to stop the ball, or would we be playing on to see what happens?
Great question. What does everybody else think?
To extend the question, if the Indian player had played straight into the back of the Malaysian defender, we wouldn't be giving a...
It's a good save. It is a good save. It's a confident save by Hafizuddin Osman. He's put out his right
Yes.
leg, batted that away.
Yeah, there's a good effort to get out of the way, absolutely. And there is a nuance here, and I don't want to say just because a player is moving really quickly to get away that is enough. Sometimes players can move really thoroughly, really putting a lot of energy into backing off, but they're backing off right in the most attractive channel between where the ball is and the goal, otherwise known in Nicole's language as the hot line. Okay? Truth. That is coached. So the players know that this is something they might be able to get away with, and it's a great way to defend. Stay in the hot line. Stay in the hot line.
So the key thing there is understand they're trying to get out of the way, but understand where they're going to try and get out of the way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I want to point out is, again, not shade, but that's Sean Rappaport. And who was the umpire in the clip at the Commonwealth Games with the massive call that caused lots of controversy, and all of England was furious because Australia scored and won that quarter or semi-final game? No, it wasn't Tomo, it was Sean Rappaport. Things that we do, mistakes that we make, or we think we make, or pressures that are put on us after certain big performances, stay with us. This is after that event. And Raps has been very fastidious about ball placement and stoppage. And that motion he makes probably 3 times a game right now, because it's in his head. Okay, so it's really important for us as umpires, not on this stage, but on every stage, to work through our decisions. And even when they're unpopular, even when we get a lot of backlash, we work through them. We talk with our friends, we talk with FH umpires, we talk with everybody we can to figure out and generate more consensus. We talk with top-level coaches, we talk with all these people to figure out, are we good? Because we want to be able to move forward with the game and get out of the players' way, because they sure as hell are going to go through us if we are in it. Okay? That was the last clip. Does anybody have any questions that they want to talk about on free hits and rolling balls? Anything at all? No? All right. Well, I think this is the moment where we're going to just open up to general Q&A.
Before we do.
And such. Yes?
Before we do.
Is this where we get money?
Yeah, this is where we both sing a song. Before we do, I just thought, if you don't mind, just going to summarise what I heard you say. And I actually took some really key nuggets out of Keely's presentation. And this is what I heard you say with a bit of my own sort of assessment of that. But overall, one of the key things I heard you say about rules was understand the technical aspect of a rule, but apply that in the intent and the spirit of the rule. All right? So in other words, know what the rule is, but apply it in the purpose and the intent and the spirit of why that rule is there. Correct?
Great. That sounds really smart.
Yes.
I wish I had said it that way.
You actually said it.
Did I?
Yes, you
did. My
did.
God.
This is what I heard you say. In aerial balls, we rule solely on danger or leading to danger. And a key part of umpiring aerial ball is to firstly identify the initial receiver. Because once you've identified the initial receiver, what can we then apply?
Who's entitled to the ball?
Who's entitled to the ball? Who's actually making the next infringement, right? Because we now know if I'm the initial receiver, if someone comes in there and gets within playing distance to intercept it and creates danger, then I know that, it's my role. Someone comes in there outside playing distance, doesn't create danger and gets the ball, what do we do?
Play on.
We play on. But we only know that by identifying the initial receiver.
That's good.
Free hit management. The key takeout I took from what you showed us there was we all need to know where the free hit's been taken from. And how do we know that? Ashley? How do we know when a free hit's been taken? What does the attacking or the person who's taking the free hit do?
The initial freeze, or not the stop, but
When you're umpiring, how do you know when a player has taken the free hit? What do?
They start running with the ball.
Well, what do they do before they even start running with the ball?
Attempt to stop.
They attempt to stop it or stop it. So they tap it on the ball, on the head. We now know what.
That's where the free hit's taken.
What else do we now know?
Where the 5 meters.
Where the 5 meters is from. Exactly. The other thing that I heard you say was about even when a free hit's taken, and there's a lot of things going on around and off the ball, we just need to ensure that no one is disadvantaged. So we can get a bit hung up about meters and 4.5 or 5, and it doesn't really matter if what? It doesn't really matter if what?
No one's disadvantaged.
No one is disadvantaged. You know, I tap it on the ball and he's 3 meters away from me and I go here, get a great pass away here. We're not worried about him being not 5 meters, because why? Because I'm not disadvantaged. All right? So that's a key part to remember. Sometimes when we apply the technical part of the rule of 5 meters, we forget to do what? The spirit or intent of the rule, right? This was a really key aspect that I heard Kim say, right?
I can't wait.
All decisions we make have a game context, right? We've got to understand the context of what's going on when we make a decision. And most context isn't ball related. We understand what ball related means? Like when it hits a foot or it's a ball related decision. Most context is actually what's happening where. If it hits my foot, what's the context about? It's happening away from my ball related decision. It might be about where players are standing, how much space there is, what's the intent I'm doing. So context is very, very important when we apply any sort of normal rule of hockey. That's why when coaches and players often say to us, you're inconsistent. Because there are times, I'll give you a really easy example. You know, the ball that goes back and around and hits my foot and there's no one around me, what do we do? Why do we do that? Sorry?
No disadvantage.
No disadvantage? Well, that's why we do it, too, with context. Why is that context of hitting the ball play on? Hitting the foot play on?
No impact.
No impact? Why else? Why is there no impact?
Because there's
No one around me. All right? Context. When the ball hits my foot and there's a player standing there from the other side, we give a what? Why do we give a free hit there? Because there is context now. There's someone there and now that player's being disadvantaged. So context is not often the ball-related decision. It's about what everything else around it is. I think I'm going to become a really good umpire.
At least you can talk really well. Do you want to start your own YouTube channel?
No. I'll join you for one if that's okay.
Yeah.
So those were the key takeouts I took from your initial one, your air ball, and your free hit management. So
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Okay. So at this point, Frenchie's idea was that we would open it up to just this more casual conversation, just some chitter chatter, just any questions that you have, particularly if you've been involved in this tournament or if you've just watched a couple games or whatever it might be, things that you're seeing, things that you're interested in hammering out. We also do have an exceptional high-level coach with us in the back here. Nicole's here. So, it would be interesting, to compare and maybe get a little input from her on some of these questions that, we might have. So how does this resonate with the things that you're experiencing in your levels? Have you seen stuff like this? You have these questions, you're like, yeah, players are starting to do this stuff and I don't know how to deal with it. Okay, so.
Oh. In the grade that I umpire is, those aerials are great, the 20, 30, 50, 60 metres.
Yeah.
10 metre aerials are a real challenge to manage.
Right. Shit skill, just call it as a free hit. No, I'm just kidding. Short aerials are quite likely, in a lot of cases, going to lead to danger, right? So they just, if they're clear, like there's been some gorgeous little pops I've seen especially the older male guys on that side of the draw, and like the 70s are just like, whoop, here's a little 10-meter pop over the head, and because they're moving so slowly, it's a really effective pass. I've clocked this for any time I'm getting to play Masters myself. I'm like, oh, my aerial's actually going to work at this level because there's not players all running in and getting in the way of everything. So that's really dope. So it is hard. It is hard because we're looking, if you have a 60-meter aerial, oh my God, you got all day to sit back and go, all right, so this way, interception's going to come that way. Okay, and proceed. Whereas the short distance of time you have with a short aerial is just...
Viv, can I pick up on something you said there? There were very first 3-4 words, at my level, because I think this is a really important discussion. Okay, so at the highest level, what are we going to see in terms of skill and aerial ball? What do you think we're going to see? Control, accuracy, what else? We're probably going to see a lot of it. Distance, short distance, right? When we go down the grades, at my level, where I umpire, down the grades here, what do you think I might see in aerial balls? Inaccuracy, not great control.
Coming at you rather than down.
Correct. So, in a general rule...
The ones that come at you, there may be a different reason.
So what do we rule aerial ball on? So where's the most likely the danger going to happen? No. In terms of levels. Lower end of level. So if you're umpiring at the lower end of levels, do you think you'll probably blow more decisions for danger, or safety, protecting safety, than the high levels, right? So I would suggest to you that that's exactly what's going to happen, and that I'm not saying we shouldn't be courageous and we shouldn't promote skill, but you'll probably find at the lower grades, instead of everybody in the team doing it or being able to do it well, it's probably one. So identify who that person is, and when the others do it, I think you don't err or pretend it's going to happen, but you probably think to err on the side of safety. So I think that's quite an important aspect. And I quite like the way you brought that up, actually.
Yeah.
I love doing this with Kelly. It's so cool.
I'm going to change topic.
Don't ask me to sell another course, because there's like one a night.
So this is actually something that happened in a game I did today. Ball came into the circle, and it came across in the air. There was a attacking player over here to receive it. But a defender came in and sort of running almost towards the back line, put the ball out just to intercept the ball. The ball went over the back line. Mm-hmm. Now, the attackers were screaming for a stroke, which I'm not quite sure why. But then they said, but he intended to play it over the back line. So ignore the stroke bit. That's just them being idiots.
Yeah, that's bad rule stuff. Yeah.
But what they were asking actually was for a penalty corner for intentionally over the back line. And I said, well, no, look, the guy's reaching out. He's trying to intercept it. That's what he's actually trying to do. Okay, Yep, the ball went over the back line, straight off the stick, no problem. But it does bring up the fact that there is a lot of variation on how that whole ball over the back line is applied.
Yep.
And a lot of umpires, a lot of players explain the rule in quite different ways. Mm-hmm. Can you help us? Please help us by just giving us a nice soundbitey principle on what to look for that doesn't rely on us having to read minds as to a player's intent.
Here, just give me the big mic. Okay. So, yes, intent is one of the swear words in the rule book as far as I'm concerned, because none of us know how to read the player's minds at all. So what we're considering is measuring all of the factors that go to the decision that this is what the player most risks having happen. So it's a risk. It's reckless as to the result in other contexts, in fouling contexts, but in playing the ball off the back line. And I've been working on a set of criteria because I love a list. Like, who doesn't love a list? Be able to check things off. But you're going to look at things like the body position of the player. So are their shoulders pointed to the back line? Are their hips pointed to the back line? Is their head pointed to the back line? Their feet? You're going to look at all those. You're going to look at the motion of the stick. Is the stick moving in the direction of the back line? And to what extent? How close to the back line are they when this happens? How close are they to the goal when this happens? How many other players are around them? How much body control does that player have in that moment? Are they sort of stumbling? Are they moving backwards? Is something weird happening? Or are they in full stance, full triple threat, and no problem? Okay. What else is on my list? I can't remember. What kind of contact did they make on the ball?
Yes, speed,
So-
distance from the line, yeah.
Yeah, so do they solidly contact the ball, or does it sort of bounce off at a weird angle because it's kind of an edge, or it goes off the toe or something like that? Okay. So a lot of commentators, pundits, and people who don't know much about hockey will say, it was only going one way, umpire, and that's pretty much how physics works. It can always only go one way, because that's just logic. So we're looking at all of the things that go into that, and you measure them on both sides of the ledger. You can also look at, was the result of going off the end line a better result than what would have happened otherwise? There was a clip from the Men's Junior World Cup. No, it was a Sultanate Johor's under 21, right? Where the ball was going to go off the sideline, inside the 23. And here's a young guy just barreling for the ball, and he just doesn't want to give up that sideline ball, so he dives towards the sideline as the ball is traveling out, and he's trying to, I think, pretty clearly, trying to hook his stick around and just sort of keep it, with that sweeping motion that the players do sometimes, the ones with skill. And he's diving like full stomach out, and he's sliding on the ground. He's got no control over his body, and the ball gets played off the back line, and the umpire calls it as a penalty corner. It's like, you know what? You tally up all of the factors, including the guy was just trying to stop it from going over the sideline, and you realize that the ledger is pretty heavily weighted towards that was an unintentional play. Okay.
I think one other really key aspect there is what other options they've got.
Yeah, there you go.
So if I've got a ball that's in open space and I can go over and play it, but somehow it magically disappears over the baseline, I think it's quite smelly, don't you? So I could get the ball and take it back out through the circle, but somehow I make sure it ends over the back line. Yeah? What do you think? Why do I want it to go over the back line? Because it's the safest option for me to have it over there. So I think options is a key part too.
Okay. Anybody else? More questions? I mean, it's true I'm not drunk enough yet to ask the interesting questions, but you could sure try. Thanks for coming, you two. Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
I have a very big question.
Here we go. Whoa!
Taxi.
We have a father down!
Hi. My question is, why are the rules so poorly written?
Frenchie, would you...
And to elaborate on that, like, in some instances it's cases where the text of the rule has not kept up with the modern game, like aerials need to be controlled and on the ground. We've talked about that. We've talked about free hit stationary, but like the copy editing on the rules is just pretty horrendous. I know Keely has like a list as long as my arm and leg of changes that she would want to make, and I'm sure that I could not contribute to that at all. But like, why are they so poorly written? Like, there's definitions that are missing. There's signals that are missing, right? Like, for example, at the start of the umpire section, it says umpires must only use the official signals. And in the middle of the rules, there's players must not play the ball with the back of the stick. Now, is there an official umpire signal for a back stick? No, there is not.
Correct.
And things like that. I could go on, but I think I've made my point.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to hand this over to Frenchie in a second, but what I do want to say is that Do you know how excited I was when I found out he's on the rules committee? Oh my god. I was just like, yes!
Only 3 months.
Worth,
All I'm going to say is watch the space.
worth the flight itself. So I'm going to say I rarely defend anybody in positions of bureaucracy, but writing good rules is really fucking hard. And as someone with legal training and having done administrative law courses and legal interpretive and legal drafting courses and all these things, it's really difficult. It takes a lot of will. It takes a lot of skill. And what we have are volunteers who may not have that background and training or access to those resources, trying to do the best they can as they come in for a term of maybe a couple years or something like that, and they inherit this body of rules that has just grown into this weird monstrosity with all these little patchwork things. So as much as we all love the fact that we're like this nimble sport, like, oh, football, you're so quaint with you're never going to change a rule in a decade or in a century, and we're just changing things, like, and that's what's so exciting about our sport, but it's led to a lot of those inconsistencies and things that haven't matched up. So we got to understand that those two things might be true at the same time, that cognitive dissonance. And what I think is really required isn't just more little patchwork things, but a real, true overhaul. And do you know how many people are going to be mad when that happens? Every single fucking person. Like, everyone is going to hate what happens. Right? So, Frenchie, you want to talk about how you're going to completely overhaul the rulebook? Did I just stitch you up?
No, you didn't. No, not at all.
Oh my god.
Sorry. That was quite a hard question. It's thrown me.
Sorry.
No, it's not a hard question at all, actually. So, yeah, I was invited onto the FIH Rules Committee about 3 or 4 months ago, after actually asking some very challenging questions about the rules themselves, especially when I was at the World Cup with the aerial ball into the circle. Without going into that story, but let's just say that was the result. I think the way of shutting me up was to put me on the rules committee and see what could happen. But what I will say to you is I'm going to challenge you a little bit. So you've talked about the technical aspect of the rules, right? I reckon hockey as a sport has been probably one of the most forefront codes that's changed rules to change its game, right? Now you think about getting rid of offside, free auto pass. There's not many codes that have changed the way our game actually is. So first of all, we've got to actually say to the people who've been looking after the rules, well done to them, because our game is better for it. Okay, I think that's a true statement. But what we haven't done, or what they haven't done, is make sure the technical aspects of that have kept up with the modern way we've changed the rules. I think I'd still prefer the way we are. I'd rather get our rules right and then get the technical aspects right too. But I totally agree with you. We're really lucky. Soledad is the chair of our rules committee, and Keely knows Soledad very well. She's probably one of the most experienced female umpires we've ever had. I'll actually go further than that, one of our most experienced umpires. And she's actually a lawyer by profession.
Exactly.
And when she got our committee together, I was pretty excited about what she was saying. She's basically saying there are so many things that we need to fix, and we're going to get it fixed. Now I'm setting myself up to fail here because, as Keely said, it's not an easy job. But be assured, people are aware that the technical aspects of the rule book need to be changed. So, but I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that we've got a rule book, and then we've got the way we need to umpire, and somehow we need to probably get that balance right. But I agree with you. Technically, at the moment, it's not well written. Yep.
One of the most exciting innovations of hockey, I reckon, out of the last few years is 3D skills. And you're now seeing balls not just being lifted over sticks over a short distance or at a short height. You're actually now starting to see 3D skills applied to carry the ball over a distance, in many cases above knee height. And there seems to be, at a certain level, a lot of confusion as to, from an umpire, what principles are you looking at to apply the rules to make it fair and safe. But also from a player perspective, they're asking, well, how am I meant to defend that? If a guy's carrying a ball over, or a woman, sorry, my gendered language. Yeah. What's some guidance, both from a umpire perspective and a player perspective? Frenchie or Keely, either one. Keely?
Actually,
Frenchie?
I'm interested. Nicole, do you have any comments on how you think of or how you train players to tackle the aerial ball, or sorry, the 3D skill?
Yeah, it's quite interesting that you passed the mic to me, because I was sitting here going, we're really behind in the coaching space, and we should have more coaches in the room here listening and discussing more. And I know that's a push that Frenchie and I are trying to make in the association, so we can have more discussions, because part of this is, do coaches understand? Are we coaching it correctly? Do the players understand? And actually, can we all work together? So I don't think there's enough discussion around that and clarity from the coaches. So I would highly encourage you to, where you can, have discussions with the coaches and the players, and we'll try to work on the coaches being more open to that as well, because I don't think we're doing a good job in that space to truly understand the rules. So I'm lucky I sit next to Frenchie in the office, so I'm always picking his brain about things and the amount of things I've learned, and it sort of made me go, oh, I probably should have been having these conversations a lot longer ago. So, yeah.
Yep, that's fair.
I'll just add to that, and I'll try and make it really quick, because I think it's a really relevant story. So I was at the World Cup. We had the aerial balls going into the circle. Players and coaches were a little bit unsure about how they were to play it, and I put it down to the way the rule was written. Okay, the FIH came to me and said, "Well, what's going on with these aerial balls into the circle?" And I actually got quite angry with them, actually, and I said to them, "Listen, you guys, the umpires at this World Cup are umpiring to the way you've written the rule." And they said, "Oh, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, that's the way the rule is written." And then I said to them, I've just spoken to about 8 or 9 of the coaches of these teams that are here, Belgium, Australia, the Netherlands, the Germans. And I said, every single coach, when I said to them, well, what was your input into the way aerial ball should be played and umpired? Guess what they said? I've had no input into it. And I said to the FIH, I said, here are some of the best brains in hockey, and you're telling me that you had no input into the way the aerial ball has been written or decided how we're going to play it? And I said to them, I think the tail is wagging the dog. And by this stage, I'm getting quite angry with them. And I said, the tail's wagging the dog. So what you're doing wrong is, your process seems to me, is you go to the officials and you go, we want to umpire this rule this way, get it sorted, and then we'll go and tell the players and the coaches. I reckon what you should do is you should go players and coaches and go, how do you want to play this game and how do you want to play this rule? And then when we know that, we'll go to the officials and go, umpire it this way, and bring your own. Of course, you've got to bring the official aspect to it too, in terms of fairness and safety. And they all sort of, oh, yeah. 3 months later, I got invited to the FIH Rules Committee. And that is a true story. So now I'm in a lot of trouble because I got to walk the talk.
Yeah. Here, I want to I just need this one. I've already got. So just to sort of add on to that, I specifically wanted to include Nicole, because that's the kind of conversation that we need to have. Next week, I'm going to be sitting down with Phil Roper and Joop de Mol. I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. And my friend Ernst Bart on Ernst's channel, but it's going to be, I think we're going to be able to stream it simultaneously on FH Umpires as well. But if not, just look at the socials. It'll be there. And we are specifically going to have a powwow about 3D skills and what Joop is a defender, Roper is an attacker, me as a yabber about umpiring, and then Ernst as a pundit and general grumpy guy. What we are seeing, what the players want. Ernst is a coach as well, so he fills that mold, and we're going to have this sort of exchange of ideas, because I am deeply curious as to what the players are thinking. How does Joop tackle, like, because Roper doesn't tackle. How does Yoop tackle a 3D skill? What's challenging about it? What techniques has he developed? We're going to answer those questions, I hope. It's going to be next week, and I'm going to get the New Zealand date incorrectly. I think it's the 7th in the rest of the world, and then it's the 8th here. So, but if you miss it live, just come in for the replay because it's going to be really exceptional. And on the aerials topic, I had a conversation with David Ames and Bernardo Fernandez and Ernst about aerials into the D. We did a whole live stream just on that. And I mean, we could have talked for hours. And we all came to, like, it was incredible. We came to a consensus of what we thought the new understanding, the new how it should be written. And, you know, maybe the FIH was listening. Who knows? Maybe the FIH can be listening now. But there you go. So those are the kind of conversations. And the more times that you all engage with the content, and this isn't just a plug to watch my channel, but if more people are engaging with that, the more we have practice at talking to coaches and players. And hopefully I'm showing you a great way to be able to do that to the best of my ability, and encouraging you to be able to do the same and go to the coaches in your area and, like, grab a beer and have a conversation. How do you coach your players to tackle 3D? And they might go, we don't. And then you say, why the fuck not? Like, let's talk about this. Because I know when I'm coaching players, I coach them to tackle 3D skills in a specific way. But who knows, right? And this is how the game develops. This is how it progresses. This is how the players do dope things that are entertaining and grows our sport and earns more money and gets more profile. And everything is awesomer. Okay, anything else? Nicole, she's like, yeah, awesomer. I like it. Can you hand the little mic to?
I'm just going to defend myself on the rules committee. One of the most difficult parts of rules is you need to make rules that applies to an international player and someone down in Div 4 at North Harbour. And you imagine how difficult that is, right? Because I think it's easier to write rules for the skill level because the danger aspect's quite reasonably simple. But you've got to write a rule that applies to all skill levels and participants of hockey. But I believe that that's the reason why we have regulations. So we've got a rules of hockey, and then you've got regulations that can be applied to different levels. And I think that's the way to go. We won't get it right in the first 2 or 3 years that I'm on, and then when I get kicked off, I'll be able to stand back and start pointing at all the things they're doing wrong. But yeah, I'm just love the passion of our hockey people, right? You guys are talking about rules, and you're talking about what we've got to get right, and you know, these conversations are really cool. And to Keely's huge point, we got to talk more to coaches and players, okay? Because for some reason, I actually think we're getting better, but for some reason, we turn off 2/3 of the hockey knowledge and expertise in our sport, players and coaches. And I know it's not easy, and for those of New Zealand will know that I profess to umpires all the time, engage with these people. And through Nicole, I'm saying to her, tell your coaches to engage with us. Because I think we've come a long way, and when we all head in the right direction for the betterment of our game, we all win. We all win. And again, you know, not a plug for Keely's FH umpires, but I think one of the great things she's done, apart from the development of umpires, you know, online, she's starting to bring all the stakeholders and participants together. And that has to be coaches, players, umpires, and officials, and dare I say it, administrators.
Oh, I'm sorry, you've gone too far.
But that's what we need to do, because often where the roadblocks are actually in the administration and decision-making process, not what us as participants want to do. But if you haven't logged in and seen Keely's fhumpires.com, I can thoroughly recommend it. Every time I go on there, she calls me Frenchie, so I quite like that. But yeah, get involved. Is there any more questions for maybe, I'm conscious of time, is there any burning questions before we go?
I'm not actually a full-on umpire. I do it very casually, but I'm a goalkeeper. And my big
Stop there.
so I actually know all the rules better than probably Frenchie does as well.
Oh,
that's what I tell my players.
Obviously.
My question is, have we actually taken the ability of keepers to do the likes of skills like smothering by saying it's become dangerous? Because if you make any impact with the players, now you run the potential of getting a yellow card and a PC.
Can you define smothering for me?
Okay, well for me, I'm actually making contact with the ball with my pads, going down on the ground and stopping. I had a case just the other day and literally I stopped, the ball hit my pad, it rolled away, the player came barrelling over me. I'm concerned that yeah, and that's great, but my concern is that we actually could potentially have taken it too far and taken that skill out. But you've got to be able to give the goalkeepers some chance to actually be really, I won't say aggressive because I don't want to get anybody hurt, but just to be able to make good quality saves.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just start because I'm running around because I want to move my knees. They're starting to hurt. For me, no, I've got this. So for me, I've got it. That's just incorrect. That's just incorrect application of the rule. So if it's about goalkeepers can be put in danger, goalkeepers can be obstructed, and goalkeepers are expected to go down on the ground and use their bodies to stop the ball. That is the thing. And so we expect them to take up space that the attackers have to go around. It's when the goalkeepers are going into the attackers' bodies and their spaces and they've missed the ball that we get really, really concerned. So I just think that maybe you're having some localized experience because I actually see a lot of pretty good general accuracy about plays like that. When you said smothering, I got really concerned because in Canada, in ice hockey, that's a totally different thing. That is literally the goalkeeper going like this on top of the puck, and it freezes the puck, and yeah, we don't do that in our sport, so just saying. So I think one of the things is it's really great these days that we can watch hockey from all over the world. In fact, there's way too much hockey to watch. I can't even remotely keep up, and that bothers me to no end. But you can watch German Bundesliga on YouTube, and you can watch Dutch League, you can watch stuff from South Africa, you can watch League from Chile, you can watch all kinds of stuff so that you can get a real sense of what's happening everywhere.
You could watch National Masters Tournament 2024 in New Zealand.
Yeah, yeah, you can, right?
I didn't want to watch my life.
Right, and that's amazing. And that gives you a perspective on where we're going, what players are thinking and what they're wanting more and all that kind of stuff. And the more we do that, the more we are going to come together as a sport and we're going to get better at doing the thing that we do, which is serving the game. So.
Yeah, perfect answer. And I'll just reiterate, Nicole, get coaches, players and umpires in a room because then we can have these discussions. I'll be honest, I haven't seen a theme of goalkeepers being unfairly treated, but I could be wrong. The thing I'll also say is, you know, if that particular decision you're talking about happened, it just means the umpire got it wrong. If it happens 20 times, then that's a theme and that's a problem. So just put that into context a little bit too. But yeah, the hockey I've watched, I haven't seen a theme where I think keepers are being unfairly treated yet. But we all think you're special anyway. So, but yeah, no, good question. But the key is, did you go and talk to the umpire about it afterwards?
No, because I considered I'd done everything right, and I didn't actually get sent off per se.
Okay.
It was that's always the threat, and that's what we're hearing as players. That's what we're hearing.
Righto.
We're hearing that, you know,
Don't worry, we're still gonna look after you. Don't worry. But good question.
Yeah. Anybody else? Andrew, my man.
Yeah, I might as well do this. What is your opinion on the aging out of international umpires? Should it be age-based or is it skill-based? So incorporating their fitness level and all that.
Maybe about comeback.
No, I'm never getting to that level.
So yeah, the question about, did you say grading or specifically retirement?
Retirement age,
Retirement
or
age.
should it
Okay.
be
Yep.
due to the physical abilities, fitness levels, and all that combined?
So here is the thing. It sounds like we should just be able to assess umpires purely based on merit, no problems at all. If they can meet the fitness standards and they're good enough, they should be there. However, there's a little problem at the international level where measuring merit isn't always the most objective criterion. One of my biggest obsessions is I want to be able to statistically measure the performance of umpires. And I'm working with a company called Tagger, based in Ireland, and we are developing our own sort of tagging system. So it would be like Coach Logic or like whatever system, but specifically configured for umpires. 2 umpires on the pitch, maybe adding in the video umpire for those particular levels, and developing a way to measure how accurate their decisions are. Where their accuracy is, where it isn't. Great music. So that we have these empirical standards that we can look at, not just so that we can rank people, but because we can understand how we can improve. But the lack of empiricism in general makes it really, really difficult. And I've seen a lot of problems with people that perhaps supposedly passed fitness tests, but didn't actually pass fitness tests. A mandatory retirement age just gives everybody an out saying, there's nothing we can do, you gotta go. So that nobody has to make a hard decision. Do I like that approach? Fuck no. But at least it means that decisions do get made. I mean, I have a friend who got dismissed off the list, didn't even get a letter, didn't even get anything. He didn't know that he got retired until I sent him a message and said, hey dude, did you retire? Like, was it 47? He's like, what do you mean? Because he didn't know he'd been removed off the list, because I was doing a line-by-line breakdown of who had changed positions and such. That is a shitty way to find out from a Canadian, right? So it's really complicated. It seems like it's easy, but it's not. It's complicated, and there's a lot of competing interests, and it's very political. So the mandatory age gives you something to hang on, but at the end of the day, what that means is new blood gets to come in. And that is really, really important in every sport, in every team. When they're playing teams, they need to have mandatory retirement sometimes too, or John Doman's going to play until he's 70 years old. Right? Does that help? I know that's not an answer, but it's the truth. As somebody who got, I was no longer being appointed, and I saw in 2 years' time my retirement age was coming, I'm like, okay, I'm just sending in my letter now. Because I'm not going to make a big comeback in 2 years. And off I went. And it hurt at the time, but it was the best decision that I could make for what I could do to serve the sport. So I'm glad for it that way. Everybody's got personal stories about that though. So Frenchie and I were talking about a bunch earlier. We were talking about that very specific thing. Yeah. Anything else? Look, this was fabulous, but I'm going to let Frenchie wrap it up because he's really good with all these poetic words. So, grab the haircut here.
I've had 4 beers. I didn't hear anything.
Sorry. That'll never come through the audio. It's fine. Hang on. Come here. God, you're like a...
Bizarre.
Oh, God.
No, look, just great engagement from the crowd. It took a little while to warm up, and then when it warmed up, it was really cool. And I think that's a real credit to your facilitation style, Keely, to just...
Is it the swearing?
Yeah.
It's the swearing.
Well, fuck yeah. But no, it's, we are very lucky to have you in our shores. As I said earlier, very excited to hear when you were coming. It didn't take us long, did it, Kieran, to go, let's do something while you're here. And not only that, we've actually organised you to do this again in North Harbour on the 7th of March.
Yep.
Just to have someone from outside our system, someone from outside the New Zealand way we do things. I think it's just a really, really important point of difference. I loved your message at the umpires briefing when you stood up and said, "I'm here to challenge you. If you don't like that, fuck off." Something.
It's on you.
Not a very good Canadian accent, but
that was awful.
But underneath all that, it reinforces why we do need to listen to different voices, and we do need to hear what other people have to say. I often tell people when I was at the very pinnacle of my average umpiring career, the most important mentor I ever had wasn't even an official-based person. It was actually a coach. It was someone like Nicole sitting in the back, because I needed to hear from someone who actually played on that other side of the game, you know. So, but to that point, how lucky are we to have you here? I hope, in fact, I'm going to say I know you're going to come back to New Zealand. Yeah. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your candour. And I will continue to be listening into fhumpires.com. But yeah, great to have you here. We've still got 3 or 4 days. But on behalf of the people here, myself, and people online maybe, thank you, Keely. Some great insights, and certainly I've taken some nuggets myself, which sort of proves the old adage, right? You're always learning. And I can tell you, if you've got an ability to be a continuous learner and to reflect and review, you're going to go a long way. And that's sort of where Keely sort of comes from. So on behalf of us, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Now you can drink in Kieran's bar. That's all I can hear. Cool. Cheers. All right. We should tag team more often. Yeah, thank you.
That was really fun. I really enjoy being able to work with other people more.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I do a lot of presentations, obviously, but I love a voice to bounce off and just change the sound, because sometimes you can just, and you know what I love?